Lots to do over the next 60 minutes. There is Super Bowl week talk to get into with the commissioner, Roger Goodell, holding his usual annual press conference and talking to the media on Monday. We'll get into that. News on the Hall of Fame, and it's not good news again if you're a Patriots fan. We'll explain coming up a little later on. Some wheeling and dealing in baseball, and a story you have to hear to believe or see to believe when it comes to one newly minted star for the Chicago White Sox. But we start things out as we always do on this Tuesday edition of the show. Time for the big story. And the big story on Monday was Roger Goodell meeting with the media. And I commented on this in a SportsWrap short. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for SportsWrap shorts. Also available on TikTok and Instagram. Roger Goodell has mastered the art of these press conferences, with the exception of the 1 year with Mike Freeman, where Freeman was able to get him off his talking points and then subsequently got basically canned from NFL media for talking about the lack of black people that are involved in the editorial process over at NFL Media, which is now owned by ESPN. But other than that, he has mastered the art of talking for an hour without saying almost anything. And yesterday was no exception to that. He has become very adept, very adroit when it comes to talking to the media and taking difficult questions and basically smoothing out the rough edges in those questions and just giving you that sort of even-keeled, tempered answer that doesn't really tell you a lot. Yesterday, case in point, the Rooney Rule, which you got a lot of questions on. You know, why do you have 10 coaching vacancies? No black coaches get hired. And you just basically, and in this case, it felt to me like he almost was throwing his arms up in the air and saying, yeah, we're going to look at it. We're always looking to improve, but no real answers on how to fix what happened with this coaching cycle, where there were 10 openings, not a single black head coach gets hired, where you have a ton of offensive coordinator openings. And other than Mike McDaniel and Eric Bieniemy, no black offensive coordinators. No African-American offensive coordinators, which is the pipeline that leads to NFL head coaching. So there was that. Then there was the question about the Hall of Fame stuff, which we'll get into a little later on with news on another Patriot that's not going into the Hall of Fame in this cycle. And then there was the Steve Tisch stuff. And this is the one that sticks out most to me. The Steve Tisch situation. The co-owner of the Giants, mentioned heavily in the Epstein files. And he's come out and said, no, it's just, colorful language, adult females, making sure to say all the key buzzwords so as to not be lumped in with, pedophile island and all the different stuff that went on with Jeffrey Epstein. But Roger Goodell's answer on that yesterday was not satisfactory to me. It shouldn't be satisfactory to other owners who are going to get lumped in with guys like Steve Tisch, the co-owner of the New York Giants. If I were the other owners around the league, I wouldn't be thrilled with what he said. But from my perspective, what I wanted to hear asked and answered yesterday is, Roger Goodell, what do you know? What did you know? When did you know it? Are you telling me that last Friday was the first time Roger Goodell knew that Steve Tisch was going to be mentioned in these Epstein records, the Epstein files? You're telling me that's the first time a league that knows everything about everybody, you're telling me the first time that Roger Goodell had heard anything about Steve Tisch being involved with Jeffrey Epstein was last Friday? Nobody asked that question yesterday. And you had an hour of questions. Nobody asked that question yesterday. Did Roger Goodell know that? And then the other thing that I want to hear Roger Goodell say is, I've spoken to every single one of our owners. I've spoken to all the owners of NFL teams, anybody with a major stake, and I've asked them, are you in the Epstein files? Did you have any association with Jeffrey Epstein? Because a responsible commissioner should be out in front of this and doing that. And instead, all I got was, yeah, we're going to look into it. Don't put the cart before the horse as far as punishment, because the league does have a vehicle by which it can punish owners. The same way it punishes players for, shining a negative light on the NFL. And I thought Roger Goodell dropped the ball badly yesterday when it came to the Steve Tisch stuff. Big story number one. Big story number two. James Harden talking with the Clippers about being traded and dealt away. This one, the Clippers have been one of the best teams in the NBA for the last 2 months after starting out 6-21. I know they got beaten last night. But James Harden reportedly wanting out because the team doesn't want to pay him a ton of money in his next contract. Shocker. James Harden being all about James Harden. I said this years ago. I said this when he was in Houston, when he went to Philly, and then Philly to the Clippers. Whoever gets this guy in a trade, whoever is dumb enough to part ways with assets for this guy, you get what you deserve. It is no longer buyer beware. All the buyers have been warned about what James Harden is. And yet somebody again is going to be the sucker, is going to be the chump, is going to give the Clippers a nice haul for a future Hall of Famer, granted. But a guy that has proven throughout his entire career that A, it's all about him, and B, when the chips are down, he's not going to give you what you need. But somebody's going to pay the freight. James Harden's going to get one more big bag in the NBA, at least one more. Could it be the Cavaliers? That was the discussion on Tuesday morning. Shams Charania reporting it with ESPN. Kudos to him. Kurt Helin's going to join us from Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. He was at the Clippers game last night. Interested to hear what he has to say about where James Harden might wind up. That's the big story. We're talking Roger Goodell. Sam Yarnell's here next. Welcome back to the show. We talked about it a bit in the big story. We expand upon it now. Roger Goodell meeting the press on Monday to kick off Super Bowl week. Media day, all that stuff. Sam Yarnell, my co-patriot, hanging out with me as well. Kurt Helin coming up in 10 minutes to talk about the NBA, because there's a lot going on, and we bumped him up a day. Trade deadline week, and a busy week as it is with the Super Bowl. All right, Sam, what did you make of what the Raj had to say yesterday? I watched the entire thing from start to finish, with Maria Taylor emceeing the event, and then him taking questions. Took a lot more questions than I thought he would, actually. I was kind of surprised. But as I pointed out in the SportsWrap short we created, by the way, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for SportsWrap shorts. Boy, he has mastered the art. I mean, he has got it down pat of knowing how to answer these questions without saying nothing at all. The Rooney Rule stuff. I mean, there's a litany of things to go through here. Let's start with the Rooney Rule. Where he basically was just throwing his arms up going, yeah, we're going to look at it. We're going to try and figure it out. And ultimately, I have to say this, for all the efforts that have been made on the minority hiring front, and in particular black head coaches, I don't see any fix for this. Because as he pointed out, it was a very small thing he said in his answer on this, Sam, and I pointed this out in the big story. It's up to the owners, and they can't force these owners to do something they don't want to do. And to me, ultimately, this is the only stuff that's going to move the needle with the NFL is if fans care. And I got news for you. Fans don't care if there's a black head coach on the sidelines. They don't care. I don't even think black fans care. They're still going to watch the games just as much, Sam, whether there's a black head coach on the side. This is the sad reality of this. If fans don't care, Nothing's going to change. Fans were tired of the kickoff and nobody, everybody taking touchbacks and balls through the back of the end zone and all this. You know what? They eventually changed the kickoff rules to make it more exciting, whether you like the change or not. As far as I'm concerned, this doesn't move the needle enough with fans. Players aren't going to do anything about it. I just don't think it matters enough.
I think fans care, right? I don't think it's fair to say that fans don't care. I think that it's fair to say that it's not going to drive down viewership. That is true. And while it doesn't drive down viewership, you are right that there is not going to be a change. But I think that, the fact that he's being asked questions in his once annual press conference about it just proves that there are people who care, right? And it is a big deal. And is there anything to do about it? It's a tough question. And it's understandably a weird one for Roger Goodell to answer because of exactly what you said, Jason, right? You're asking him a question about the owner's decisions. It's like being asked a question in a press conference about a decision your boss made watching at home. Think about that, right? If someone just came into you and hey, why did your boss make that decision? I don't know. They're my boss. I don't have any say over what they do. So I understand it's a tough position for Goodell to be in, but I think that there are plenty of people out there that care. As long as they continue to watch, though, to your point, the owners aren't going to make any substantial change in their process or what they do regarding hiring head coaches.
Yeah, and to me, but that's my point caring is enough to move the needle on something. And I'm sorry, the Rooney Rule and all this, it isn't enough to move the needle. And by the way, I think Goodell cares. I think it bothers him. You could see him bristle a little bit at the notion of the Rooney Rule just being sort of something that, people go through the process just to eventually get to the white head coach they're going to hire. I think it bothers him, but I think he's resigned to the fact that he can't do anything about it. That's just the sense I get. On the Steve Tisch stuff, I said this yesterday again in a short, and I'll say it again. If he really wants to take action on this, he'd get on the phone, call every single owner and say, I want you on the record with me right now saying you're not going to show up in those Epstein files. And if you do, you're gone. I'm going to do everything I have to get rid of you if you're in those files. Because to me, him saying, we're going to look at it, we're going to investigate it, we're going to look deeper into it. I wanted him to do more yesterday than he did. And it was very lukewarm, his response to the whole thing, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough position, right? Again, you're talking to a guy about his boss and allegations against his boss. It's just a tough position for Goodell to be put in. But Jason, it was just another example, right? These two that we've talked about so far, Roger Goodell being absolutely castrated by the owners. Another answer he had yesterday when he was asked about the officiating and how he thought officiating was going this season. Yeah. He said he didn't have any problem with officiating, which just goes back to a point that I've made for years on this show, that the officiating and umpiring unions in this country are stronger than players unions. They're stronger than ownership groups. They trump everything, because if they've got the commissioner looking at the season that these NFL referees just put on and saying, yeah, I think they did a pretty good job, he's got another thing coming. I don't know what. The only thing that I took away from just about every single answer that Roger Goodell put out there yesterday is, wow, there are so many people in football that have so much more power than the commissioner.
Yeah, he's the guy that keeps the trains moving. I mean, that's what he is. He's the guy.
That's the thing about the Tisch thing, right? Because he knows that Tisch has more power than him, and he knows that Tisch has more wealth and more resources around him, right? So it's hard for him to go after and say, yeah, we are going to prosecute these people, because, it's just like what we're seeing in the NBA. What happens when you run into a Clippers owner who's more powerful than the league?
So then you're arguing that it's not really him that got rid of Daniel Snyder. It was the other owners basically throwing Snyder overboard.
Yes, because if you'll remember, the straw that broke the camel's back in the Dan Snyder situation was not the sexual abuse. It was not the repeated allegations of workplace misconduct against Dan Snyder himself. It was when it came out that Dan Snyder was taking money from the other owners and withholding revenue sharing information that he was ultimately kicked out. The way that you get something done in the NFL is you make the owners mad, not the commissioner.
I wonder if the owners are going to get mad enough on the Tisch thing, because it could be a pox on all their houses or an indictment. I think
because you think about it, it's making a bad look for billionaires all around the country, and that's a lot of them.
Yeah, it certainly is. There is more to get to from the NFL a little later on in the show, and we will. More news on the Hall of Fame front, and it's not good news for the Patriots as they get set to head into this Super Bowl week in Santa Clara. But Kurt Helin joins us on the other side to talk about the NBA. Big trade news on the horizon. Welcome back to the show. Normally on Wednesdays we have Kurt Helin join us to talk NBA, but we had to do things a little different today because Diana Rossini from The Athletic will be joining us tomorrow from the Super Bowl festivities. So I said, let's just move Kurt up a day, and he was so kind as to accommodate us. You're the best. You know that, Kurt? You are the best.
I have no life, and I'm here to make you happy, Jason.
But it actually, the timing works out real well because we've had the breaking news both last night and early this morning on the whole James Harden situation, which did you see this coming? For people who don't know, James Harden, we talked about it in the big story, the talk between him and the Clippers about moving him here before the trade deadline, and the two sort of working that out together. I mean, a week ago, we were talking about this team potentially making a run at the playoffs and being one of those dangerous teams, and now we're just blowing it up, Kurt?
Welcome to James Harden's world. How should I put this? It was nobody. I don't think people really saw this specific thing coming, but it's not. A, it's not out of James Harden's character, and B, the Clippers were expected to shop him and Kawhi Leonard this season. Like they want to get out of this era. Those guys are on the back end of their careers. They want to kind of pivot. Harden saw that coming, and this was all about money. Look, the sources I talked to last night, I was at the Clipper game, which was an interesting experience. I don't think I've ever been on Media Row and seen fewer people actually watching the game than last night. Look, Harden has a $42.3 million player option for next year, but only 13.3 is guaranteed. And he's like, hey, Clippers, you got to pick that up, and I want to talk about a longer term, and in the summer we'll talk about that. But I want assurances you're going to do that. And they said no. And he's like, all right, well, then we got to find me a new home. Because he's James Harden, he wants to get paid. And I think that's the key here. It's not about him going to a contender. It's not about chasing a ring. It's where can he go to a team that is going to pay him, maybe not 42, off the next contract, but he can get multiple big years still as he ages.
So he's okay going to a bad, like even a worse team than he's on now.
I think he would prefer not to. Look, he does want to chase a ring. There's a reason.
That's what I thought.
Look, Harden's people leaked the Cleveland thing, right? So, there he goes to a contender, plays. We can debate how well that goes, but goes to a team who theoretically should be in the mix in the East and has been playing like it lately, and they've been doing it without Garland, who's injured. And the Clippers, look, you got to take on 2 years and $87 million after this one in Garland, but he's 26 and he's an all-star, and if you think you can get him healthy, they'll look at it.
Kurt, you took the words right out of my mouth. That is the most James Harden thing ever, to request a trade while your team is actively playing a game. But I'm curious from a trade deadline perspective, obviously, as we approach it within, 54 hours as we're sitting down to do this, how does the James Harden news, if at all, affect the Giannis market going into the trade deadline?
It affects one team in particular. Minnesota has come hard for Giannis, really hard. The problem is the Bucks want picks, and Minnesota literally has zero they can trade. Like they can give you some swaps, but they can't actually give you picks. So they're looking to upgrade, and they need a point guard. And James Harden is a very good point. Look, James Harden would set their passing forward. Like there's certain questions you've got about his defense, but he steps in and their ball movement could get better. Like he is a gifted passer. So Minnesota has jumped into the fray, and that's one team where, look, if Minnesota was coming hard for Giannis, but they can't get him and they can get Harden, do they just pull the trigger on that? It'll be interesting to see like how that kind of spins out. But that's the one team where there's a real crossover, because Golden State and Miami are not going to get in the James Harden business.
Most teams build arenas and stadiums, and they usually line it up and sync it up in such a way that they're good when they get new arenas and stadiums. Like what the A's are doing right now. Think what you want of the A's. They're building something so that when they move to Vegas in 28, they're going to be a really good team. It feels like the Clippers are doing this ass backwards, where you go and build this Intuit Dome, you got the wall and all that, and they're just going to blow this up and expect fans to come out and pay the freight for a rebuilding period in Los Angeles?
The plan was, well, two things. The plan was a couple of years, right? Like they were going to be solid for a couple of years with Kawhi and Harden. And they've been, like last year, there was a stretch where they were the best team in basketball, and you kind of started to buy into them, and then, everything fell apart. And it felt a little bit the same this year. We're like, hey, they're starting to get it together. There's potential on this team. So they haven't been bad. But this was always kind of like everybody saw the looming thing. The hope was that they were going to have all this money freed up in 2027, the 2027 plan, when in theory, Giannis Antetokounmpo and, well, he's not going anywhere, but Nikola Jokic and a few other big names are potential free agents. And one of them, they could get in on one of them, right? And they could get in on this deal. That was kind of the grand plan. It's just Harden just accelerated the timeline really fast on them.
Is there any chance Kawhi gets moved here before the deadline?
No,
Okay.
not before the deadline. But again, but first off, he's the guy to actually want. Is for all the injuries, that guy is an absolute all-star snub. Has been playing all NBA level basketball. He's only missed 13 games this year, which for him is about as good as it gets. But like when he's played, he has looked like as good as Kawhi's looked since in the regular season, since maybe San Antonio. He's been fantastic.
But is he going to want to be there during a rebuild?
Remember, he took a discount. He's really comfortable being back home in Southern California. He's in a good spot. So I am curious. That is a very good question that I am curious to see play out over the summer when they can start talking about his next deal. But the plan had always been to pivot for the Clippers regardless.
Sam, I've left you with the wonderful 1 minute spot here.
Well, Kurt, we talked a little bit about Giannis earlier, so let me just get your quick thoughts in the last minute. Tons of steam over the last 36 hours on Giannis to the Bulls. Why is Jerry Reinsdorf going after another franchise player when he's shown us that all he wants to do is middle in mediocrity?
I had heard this morning that was less real. Let's put it that way. That there's not a lot of there with that one, and how much of that is driven by, hey, we tried, because the Bulls have that reputation of not making deals at the deadline and not really filling out. That there's not much there. They do have the pick. I mean, you could put together a trade that might interest the Bucks, but if you're Giannis and your goal is to win, is that where you're going?
It's a good question. There's more to get to with Kurt Helin, who's going to hang out with us. Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is where he hangs out, and he hangs out with us next. We continue the conversation with our friend Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Does a great job over there. Trade deadline approaching. You mentioned the Giannis stuff, so I almost hesitate to ask you this as we put this together around noon on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Does he get moved before the deadline, Kurt?
For people who don't know, the running joke between us is that every time I say something when we tape these, it spirals bad within 24 hours, which leads me to say,
hours.
Yeah, which leads me to say there is no chance that I am winning the Mega Millions lottery this week.
Let's
There's
record
no
two. Hey, let's do this. Let's just have you give two answers, and then we'll just edit it out. We'll just edit it out later. Here.
Here's what I'm hearing. There's a lot of people in the league who don't see it as logical for the Bucks to do this before the deadline. that they'd be smarter to wait, as weird as could be in their locker room, to wait till there's better offers in the offseason. But these things have their own momentum, and it's led a couple of people I trust to say it's almost 50-50 just because they're going to want to get it done, that they might like either what Minnesota offers if they bring in Portland as a third team, or the Warriors have 4 first-round picks. Like, picks that could be good, frankly, once Curry retires in a few years. So, like, there's a theory that might just be good enough. Now, we should have a discussion about whether the Warriors should do this.
Yeah. No, don't do it.
But there's a real sense that the Bucks could just say, let's just get this done and do it at the deadline. I still think it probably, look, my bet would be into the summer, but there's a lot more momentum to, you know how trade rumors go, man. Both of you,
yeah.
Right? You've been around this long enough in every sport. Logic goes out the window. They pick up their own momentum and steam, and stuff happens. So we'll see we'll see. I still think it's most likely it drags into the offseason, but momentum is built. It's its own thing now.
Sam, go ahead.
Kurt, I'm pondering over the Eastern Conference, as I think we've done really all season long, and just thinking about the news from Jason Tatum over the last 7 days, I guess it's been at this point, and looking at Boston. Do they need Jason Tatum to win this Eastern Conference this year?
The funny thing is they might not, right? Like the way Jaylen Brown has been playing, the way their bench has been playing, like the way that just, it's Derek White some nights, it's Peyton Pritchard some nights. I think they do need, if either way, they need to get help at the 5. Right? They need, if they can get Daniel Gafford, who would be a great fit out of Dallas or somebody else, with all due respect to the guys they've got, like they need some frontline help, but they're in that mix. And we've discussed this before in particular. It's like, if Tatum's having doubts, which kind of have leaked out, if he's having any doubts, don't, man. Like, don't push it to come back this year. Come back next year when you're right. They retool this thing a little and you're back in the mix as one of the teams to beat in the East. But we'll see. I think that's obviously a March decision. Like, it was always going to be after the All-Star break, but I'm really curious where he goes, because I think he's torn between what his head's telling him and what his heart's telling him. And his heart's telling him what you just said, which is, look at that East, man. With me, we could beat anybody but the Wizards.
Yeah, it's true.
That's just for you, Sam.
Speaking of the Wizards, they'll take on the Knicks tonight. Knicks have won 6 in a row. The only team hotter in the East right now is the Charlotte Hornets, who have won 7 in a row. Help it make sense to me, Kurt. I mean, are they going to be like buyers at the deadline? Like, are they thinking we're going to take a run at this thing as long as their head coach doesn't keep running into LaMelo Ball and, practically concussing him?
Giving him stitches. Yeah.
Charles Lee.
First off, I thought that was a clean hit. Like, it was, he leaned it. No flag on the play. I don't think they're going to make any bold, big moves at the deadline. This kind of came out of nowhere. They're not that good, and they've still got some long-term questions, but they've got long-term questions, but they've also got Knoopel's real. Like, Knoopel is real. Brandon Miller is real. Like, they've got some stuff to build on for the future, and that's not a bad team in an East where, as we've been discussing, I think they could make the postseason just because there's going to be a few teams looking at their standing and going, are the play-in? With this draft, do we want to be in the play-in? I'd rather improve our lottery odds and pull the ripcord and fall back. And look, the hottest issue over the next 2 months after the All-Star break, it's not going to be aspiration. It's not going to be terror. It's going to be tanking. Tanking is going to be back front and center because it's going to get messy in the NBA.
Especially after those shots Darren Peterson hit the other night. Kurt, we got like a minute and a half, and a name that it feels like has started to fly under the radar, and maybe it's because of the lingering injury issues and the surgery questions. Anthony Davis, what are the chances he gets moved before Thursday's deadline?
Almost none. Just for that reason. Look, he's a close to $50 million salary, and he's just, you're not going to get much out of that hand situation, which there's very vague about. He may or may, he's going to be reevaluated in 6 weeks. He's not having surgery. Nobody thinks you're getting anything out of him this season, which is why the trade market for him absolutely died up. It's an off season. I would be shocked if he is a Maverick at the start of next season, but that's a summer thing.
Yeah, I wish he was. I would just like to see this thing with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Cooper Flagg. I really just would like, because Jason Kidd's a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the league. I want to see this thing fully intact and find out what it could be. And I feel like they owe it. I think with the whole Nico Harrison thing and trading Luka and all, I feel like they owe it to fans. I feel like they owe it to fans to show them what this could have been.
It'll look really good for the 10 games Anthony Davis is healthy.
All right, fine. Boy, that's a mic drop if there ever was one. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Follow him around the trade deadline. Tons of great content over there with our friends over at NBC Sports. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Take care, buddy.
Welcome back. Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. Wait until you hear what White Sox slugger from Japan, Munetaka Murakami, wants in the clubhouse for the White Sox. You can't make this up. That's all I'm going to say. Sam Yardell, let's continue the conversation after chatting with our friend Kurt Helin about basketball. Back to the NFL for a story that broke on Tuesday morning, right as we were getting ready to start putting the show together. And it relates back to what we were talking about with Roger Goodell and his media day press conference that he has. And it relates to the Hall of Fame. And him saying, hey, this was yesterday where Roger Goodell was basically saying, hey, Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, they belong in the Hall of Fame. They're going to get in eventually, basically washing his hands of the process and saying we don't really have any involvement beyond, helping to pick who the selectors are and all of that stuff. And then the news comes out Tuesday morning that not only is Bill Belichick not getting into the Hall of Fame in this round, but Robert Kraft's not getting in either. So neither of them wind up getting in. So I bet Robert Kraft was like, Belichick's not getting in. It means I'm getting in. And now he must be steaming mad because he finds out he's not getting in either, Sam.
Yeah, this has the chance, Jason, to be an all-time 14-day stretch for the New England Patriots organization. I mean, we are talking about making up pain for decades of dynasty in New England. It could all happen within one specific 10-day period.
Yeah.
Here. It really is magical for those of us who grew up in other AFC East cities. But no, there are so many layers to this, right? You're happy on one side from a Bill Belichick, like a recent Bill Belichick defender side of this argument, right? Because Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick very clearly had this kind of not so professional rivalry, I guess, during their time in New England, based on things we've found out after Belichick left, but certainly during the year that Gerard Mayo was the head coach and then the time since, it's been apparent that Robert Kraft does not have the best feelings towards Bill Belichick, as it were. I don't know, man. At the end of the day, ding, put one in the jar for me.
You and David Ardsma.
There are clear and obvious things that you can point to in both of these guys' lives, both on and off the field, that you can say, like, yeah, they probably don't deserve the highest possible honor in all of football because of those one or two little things here and there. It does just feel like a disservice, though, to the sport to keep both of these guys out on the first ballot, Jason.
Yeah, it does. But here's the one bright side to this, if there is. There's a couple of things. One, I had a conversation with a friend of ours who's a Hall of Fame voter, and he made the point to me that this is the most publicity the Pro Football Hall of Fame's ever had, ever. Like, it's not, good or bad, no matter how you want to look at it. It's the most publicity of the Hall of Fame, because usually the Hall of Fame announcement's a 2-day story at most. They're getting like a full week plus out of it. The other thing that was brought up to me is that this could really bring huge change to the process. And it does feel like some of this has to do with the numbers game that Jason Cole, who when he was on with us, referred to, that this is about the number of people you can select in the different groups. I have a hunch it's going to be Roger Craig that gets in from this group of 5 that had Belichick and Kraft in it, because it feels like a lot of the sympathy or empathy towards Roger Craig not having much more in terms of opportunities to get in, that has a lot to do with why Kraft and Belichick are not getting in this round. But as we've mentioned before, under the current guidelines, all this is doing is backing up the process for guys like Mike Shanahan, Mike Holmgren. There's a number of coaches. There's going to be a coaching backlog when it comes to the Hall as a result of this, Sam, that, there's going to be guys that don't get in for a while. How Mike Shanahan, by the way, isn't in the Hall of Fame is beyond me. Like, you look at that guy's coaching tree. A lot that I talk, when I think about coaches, I don't just think about what you did on the field. I think about everything that's sprung from you. How on earth Mike Shanahan's not in the Hall of Fame is beyond me.
I agree with you. I think very, very like minutia of it all, right? But we've talked about this before, how you can do this with Hall of Fame candidacies. It feels like the end of Mike Shanahan's career in Washington really kind of did him in with regard to all of that. Again, I will go back to this, right? You look at the list of first ballot Hall of Fame coaches: Curly Lambeau, right? George Halas, Tom Landry, Chuck Noll, Don Shula. Bill Belichick deserves to be in that list. I don't think anybody would say that Bill Belichick is a tier below all of those guys. To me, and again, I said this when the Belichick news first came out, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is just starting to play a dangerous game, and they can bounce back from it very quickly, but they're going to lose accreditation if this remains a theme, if this continues to be a question. Yeah, that might not have been a word.
Credibility?
But you know what I meant.
I think credibility was the word you were going for there.
Accreditation is something else.
Yeah. If you're like, a college.
A university.
Yeah. I just want to let people soak in that for a second. He's the college graduate, by the way. I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting when I was 18. We're coming back. Odds and ends are next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday show. You're not going to want to miss it. Diana Rossini will be here from The Athletic and the Scoop City podcast from Santa Clara, where she is out there covering the Super Bowl. Sam, I am making a vow today on the show. Before I get to all my announcements and all the stuff I tell you about going on with this show, I am going to make a proclamation. This is the tease of teases. It is a 1-year tease. Ready? We're going to be at Radio Row next year. I have decided.
All right.
I have made an executive decision. We will be in LA for Radio Row next year. All right? There you go, everybody. There you go. You have something to look forward to for the next 364 days. We will be on Radio Row next year. I have vowed. Because I'm tired of seeing everybody else there having fun, and we're not there having fun. So next year, we are going to be there. Vlad, I know you're watching. We're going to be there next year. We're going to be at Radio Row next year. I don't care if I have to do it from outside the convention center on a folding table by myself. We will be at Radio Row next year.
Yeah, outside the convention center, I'm not there. Inside the convention center, I'm there.
Nope. I don't care if I have to do it from the parking lot, from my
no
hotel room.
No parking lot, no hotel
room. A restroom, a porta potty. Nope. We are going to be there.
We'll be there. We'll be in the middle. We'll have a table. It'll be wonderful.
I want a set.
We'll have a couple of cameras, a couple of microphones.
Yes, I want a set. I don't want to. We're going balls out. Okay?
We'll go baby steps. We'll go table first. Right. We'll just get there first. We can go set in year 2.
We'll see. We got goals here. Before we go, a couple of reminders. SportsWrap with Jason Page, the podcast. Subscribe. It's on all your favorite podcasting platforms. The SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. If you haven't done that yet, go and subscribe. Follow us there. Everything from this show, the Monday through Friday version of the show, extended conversations because we can't fit everything into 45 minutes. That's available as well. Go and subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Sports Wrap shorts are there. 1 to 2 minute long videos, top stories of the day. We got them covered. Sports Wrap shorts also available on our TikTok. Sports Wrap Jason Page is the name to look for there. And on our Instagram, you got it. Sports Wrap Jason Page. Without any further delay, Sam Yardell, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Brendan Donovan, welcome to Seattle. See, Mariner fans, they went and did something in this offseason, coming off a fun year in the Emerald City. The Seattle Mariners make a trade for Brendan Donovan, 3-team deal. Cardinals involved, obviously. The Tampa Bay Rays involved. Some prospects moving. And Brendan Donovan. Mariner fans, you got yourself a Brendan Donovan.
People in the baseball space know. First of all, the Brendan Donovan move is great. Incredibly underrated baseball player. Like, you look at the numbers, and I'm sorry, Mets fans, close your ears. His numbers are basically the same as Bo Bichette's from last year. Here's the thing. The Tampa Bay Rays did it again. This is, like, give it 2 years and the Tampa Bay Rays are going to be back in the World Series with 9 guys you've never heard of in your life before. And, like, 2 pitchers. And that's going to be it. And they're going to be in the World Series with a real shot to win it. It is, they're doing it again. They had their front office and their minor league staff gutted by the Nationals over the offseason, and it looks like they're just gonna start doing the Tampa Bay Rays thing again. But for Seattle, I love the move. Again, I think Brendan Donovan is incredibly underrated, and it's a product of where he played, who he played with, the teams he played on. I love the move. I think the Mariners are going to be very good again next year. And they didn't even have to give up Brian Wu.
Yeah, I think it's a great move for them, absolutely. And you sort of see what St. Louis is doing, by the way. Hello to our friends watching in St. Louis. We love having you as part of the Sports Wrap with Jason Page family. Munetaka Murakami. This could be the strange... First of all, I didn't know this was a thing amongst Japanese players coming to Major League Baseball. I know it's a thing in Japan because I've traveled abroad and spent a lot of time in Asia. Bidets are a thing. And apparently... Munetaka Murakami has made a request of the White Sox to put a bidet in the clubhouse of, U.S. Cellular Field? I don't know, whatever they call it these days, in Chicago. He wants a bidet. And for those who don't know in the United States what a bidet is, I have given a demonstration here on the screen. This is a bidet. We've got video of what a bidet does.
Oh, wow.
I'm not doing it to somebody, but the process, this is an actual video that I found of a bidet. It squirts water into your tush after you've excavated.
Yeah. Hell of an invention. Really is.
It really is the greatest thing ever. If you've never used one, it is a life-changing, life-affirming sort of thing if you've never had water sprayed into your bum.
So I went to visit my parents over the holidays.
Yeah.
And my mom has done this to every toilet in her house.
Really?
Yeah. So I guess this is becoming popular worldwide, Jason Page. But I'll say, I'm not against it. It's not, not my personal preference. Call me old-fashioned if you must. But hey, whatever you got to do for comfort. And if that means this in the locker room, more power to you, Munetaka.
Like Jim Carrey once said, cleanliness is next to godliness. What better way to, take care of that? We're cleaning things up. That's how we wrap it up on this edition of Sports Wrap. Thanks to Kurt Helin. Thanks to you, Sam. Diana Rossini on the show tomorrow. We'll see you then. there, I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got SportsWrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half of as they're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.